Okay, look, if we're just being real honest about it, when they played the Ravens in week 4, they were a 2.5-point dog in that game.
Yes.
And yes, the Ravens had a couple of injuries, but they had a lot of injuries during that game as that game got out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs plastered the Ravens in that game. I mean, took them to the woodshed to the point that the next week the Ravens didn't bother to show up and got beat by 40 points at home against Houston.
Yeah.
Then the Chiefs played Jacksonville in a game that it made everybody physically ill. Oh, my life. They scored 28 points on 476 yards of offense and threw a 99-yard pick six. They were a yard away from 35 points in that game. They would, of course, then won. The Detroit game, they had I think it was like 390 or something like that in yardage. They had 30 points. They scored on almost every drive they had in the game. And then, hung 31 on the Raiders. I told you this before the show, and I think this is an instructive number. I went back and I looked. The Chiefs over the last 4 games, their starters have been on the field for 30 non-kneel down drives. 30 offensive drives for the starters over the last 4 weeks where they're not just kneeling on the ball or throwing a Hail Mary at the end against Jacksonville, like an actual legitimate drive. On those 30 drives, they have scored on 21 of them. That is impossible. That is a 70% clip. If you're wondering, like, well, what's a good number? Last year, the Lions led the NFL by scoring on 51% of their drives. The Chiefs are at 70 over the last month. 70.
Crazy.
I mean, they are just killing teams. And I get like the Raiders, they suck. That's cool. Who else is holding somebody to 3 first downs?
Yeah.
That's the thing that to me makes this, and I'll shut up, but this is the thing to me that makes this the most interesting about the Chiefs going forward. There's a lot of teams in the league that on their best day could score 31 points and put up 400 yards. Maybe not a lot, but like enough. 10 teams could do. There are even a few teams that maybe could throw a pitch a shutout. I don't know if there's any other team in the league that could do both. That is the thing. If I was another team in the league, I'd be like, that's a problem.
Yep.
Because it's one thing to do one of those things. That's a great day. Just on its own, it's a great day. When you can do both of those things, that is, to me, very interesting, especially when you backed it up by holding Detroit to 17, Baltimore to 13 for a garbage time score. And you've now averaged 32 points per game over the last 4 weeks. Like, being able to do both those things, show me the other team in the NFL that can do both those things. I do not believe that team exists.
I 100% agree with you.
2 things can be true at the same time. The Chiefs played a great game. The Chiefs are a really good team. The Raiders are an absolute disaster. Yeah. And they played about as poor a game as you could play without like taking a million penalties and or turning the ball over a ton. Well, they did have 8 penalties, but they only had the 1 turnover. At that point, the game was well in hand.
Right.
Rare is this a true statement? That game, the Raiders are lucky they only lost by 31 points.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
The Chiefs wanted to beat them by 50 some odd points. It wouldn't have been difficult. They were relentlessly killing them until Andy in the 3rd quarter was like, you know what? We're good.
Crazy.
Like, I don't know what's more respectfully disrespectful. Yanking your starters in the 3rd quarter or taking a knee before the 2-minute warning because it's such a joke. You're like, honest to God, we've won this game to end as much as you do. This is done. Yeah. Like, let's all go home. I don't know. Pete Carroll after the game with a real insightful comment that he didn't see this coming. And I would say to that, I'd hope not.
Yeah.
Because you saw it coming, you probably should have just stayed in Vegas and forfeited and say like plane didn't work or something. That was the equivalent of a forfeit. That's what everybody at Arrowhead got to witness. That was a team coming in with a bye week after that and going, you know what? Going to have a 2-week bye.
Yeah.
It's going to start right now. And that's what you saw.
Any game is a game that you choose to forfeit if you play Kenny Pickett in it. So if Kenny Pickett gets in a game, I think it's automatically like, okay, we are quitting because Kenny Pickett is now in the game. Gosh, he's bad. The Raiders are...
He just fumbled just instantly.
The first time he touched the ball, he's like, I don't actually want this football. You guys can have it, actually.
Didn't recover it. Just stayed there.
Cam Newton did it a little bit. I do appreciate what you said to kind of open this up, because I think that's an important thing to kind of preface this whole conversation. I already know, and I've already seen the comments of like, oh, well, the Chiefs only think they're back because they played the Raiders, and the Raiders suck. Everyone knows that the Raiders suck. And it's like they're just people, at least in my mentions, are just completely forgetting about the Chiefs playing the Lions team. That they played pretty good against, both on offense and defense, and kind of dismantled that Lions team that was regarded as the best team in the NFC going into that game. The revisionist history, Matt, around that game, I can already tell is going to be absolutely brutal. But look, they play on Monday night, right? They'll play the Bucks. Well, if they come out there and play well, people will still be revisionist history about how the Chiefs and the Lions game went and the narrative surrounding it going into it. I think that like that's already going to happen. We're already seeing it happen. But this is now. Ever since Xavier Worthy got back in the offense, this offense has been absolutely insane. You talked about it on a few shows that you've had people tell you that this is what it was supposed to look like. Like, this is what this offense is supposed to look like. And now for the first time, we see Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, three of those guys with Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown getting in the end zone. Rashee Rice multiple times as well. You had a rushing touchdown from Isaiah Pacheco. You had 5 drives from Patrick Mahomes where he puts up just absolutely bonkers numbers, 26 to 35, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns in 3 quarters of play. Yeah. He gets pulled, obviously 35 seconds left to go in the third quarter. Gardner Minshew takes over, and then it's over after that. But Matt, there's a lot of things to get to from this game in the offense. We'll talk about it a lot. The defense, I think there's some good defensive points that we can talk about as well. Yeah. But obviously the offense is the main headline. This is the hammerhead right at the top of the page. This is what we need to talk about. But I want to, before we get into the offense, when did you think this game was over?
The anthem. But I think it's when the Raiders also felt it was over.
Yeah.
Honestly, 14-0. When the Chiefs went down the field the second time, I was like, this game's done. The Raiders have no shot in hell beating this team. Like, they can't do anything. I'll tell you, too, I thought it was just like, normally when you blow a team out, it's kind of a combination of factors. I mean, yes, obviously, like one plays well, the other doesn't. But it typically is like the other team turns the ball over. The offensive team, the team that blows your team out, like they get short fields. And they get a couple of really big plays, like a 70-yard touchdown. None of that happened in this game. Like, yes, the Chiefs got a turnover, but it was in the fourth quarter and it was irrelevant. Like, it didn't matter. There weren't any, like, the Raiders took some penalties, but, like, none of which that, to my mind, I mean, the play on Chin in the end zone turns, I guess, from 3 to 7, but, like, nothing that, like, turned the game.
Yeah.
Like, that game was well in hand by the time Chin did that. Like, it would, okay, wow, 17-0 instead of 21, I think, at halftime. Sure, I really would have turned. I'm sure the Raiders would come out with a lot more life in the third quarter. Like, the Chiefs got the ball in horrific field position every time they had the ball in the first half and just killed them. It made no difference. I mean, the first drive was like 92. I think the second one was 84, and the third one was 94. Like, it was.
Yep.
Matt Derrick had a great tweet that the Chiefs averaged like 91.5 yards per drive in the first half. I mean, and then the last 2 drives where they were in, they went 65 yards for a touchdown and 66 yards for a field goal.
Yep.
The Raiders gave up 401 yards on 5 drives when the Chiefs started from the game.
Unbelievable.
I mean, the Chiefs had 7 receivers, so the seven pass catchers, I guess I should say, with at least 28 yards receiving. Rice had 2 touchdowns. Brown had a touchdown. Brown wasn't even one of those 7 receivers. He had 2 catches, 14 yards. They rushed for 150 yards, and their average came way down because Bashard Smith was just doing yeoman's work, just slamming the ball on the line of scrimmage to end the game. Yeah. Like, they were killing the Raiders. Right? There was the one play that I thought was emblematic of the game. They handed off to Pacheco, and he got like 3 yards, and then the Chiefs just shoved him for another like 8.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 25 feet.
Yeah.
Like when you really stop and think about it. I just, look, it's easy to your point, dismiss and go, well, it's the Raiders.
I want to put some context to the 3 first downs. You hear 3 first downs, and you're like, oh, that's not very many. How does that kind of work? I mean, it's like literally the lowest number of first downs the team has gotten since 2002, I believe. And actually, it was the Raiders.
8, and it was the Raiders.
8, yes, 8, and it was the Raiders. So also very hilarious. To put this into context in terms of like college football, right? If you guys are Mizzou fans watching this podcast, or just any college football fan in general watching the podcast, early on in the season, like these SEC teams, Big Ten, these big schools will play FCS schools. And a lot of times, Missouri opened up the season against Central Arkansas, FCS Central Arkansas. They won 61-6. They didn't even get a shutout there, right? Sometimes you get those leaks in there.
Yep.
Ken Swanson brought this up on the postgame show. I thought this was interesting. 61-6 Missouri wins. How many first downs Central Arkansas got? They still got 15. They still had 15 first downs in the game. You go to when they played Louisiana earlier this year. They beat them 52-10. Mizzou beat them 52-10. They still had 4 first downs. Louisiana did. So like to get only 3 first downs with one of them coming via the penalty is absolutely insane. Like that's dominant. Like it is a little bit of like, okay, that team does suck, right? Like because their offense did suck.
Yeah.
They had their 2 best weapons, not named Ashton Genty. But they just don't use Ashton Genty, and they don't have Brock Bowers, and they didn't have Jacoby Myers. He was out there practicing, and he was just like, you know what? I think I'm good today. I don't think that I want to play today. And that's actually, Matt, probably the emptiest I've seen Arrowhead in the fourth quarter of a Chiefs regular season game in a long ass time. Maybe since the Castle era, probably. You've seen an empty fourth quarter.
That was a different reason.
Very different reason. I remember they panned off. I think it was after a kickoff. There was a kickoff. It was probably after the field goal. I was watching the game and I was like, "Oh, that lower bowl's empty. Like it's empty. Like there's people like probably trying to move up to get better seats."
It's not often that Nance and Romo call a game that is completely over by halftime.
Yeah. Oh,
But they get the best assignments every week. I also thought it was funny they were going over the Chiefs' upcoming schedule and they're like, oh, they're playing on Monday night, but then we have their next game against the Bills and also the Broncos game.
yeah, right.
And I was like, you guys are also going to have Chief Colts, aren't you? You just don't have the assignment yet. Like,
right. Well, I know we talked about this last week. I still think that might get flexed. I know that the Sunday night game's pretty good, but like, I don't know.